What if I told you there are countries where your retirement income isn't taxed? Whether it's your Social Security, pension, IRA, or 401k withdrawals, or other retirement investments, you could legally pay no local tax on that income. What if I also told you that the cost of living in these countries is likely to be much lower than where you live right now? In this video, I'm going to share 7 countries where American retirees don't pay tax on their foreign retirement income, savings, or investment withdrawals. I'll also walk you through the visa requirements, cost of living, healthcare, and safety in each country. And just as importantly, I'll reveal the downsides of some of these countries that most people completely ignore. Now, let's get into it. 7. Belize. If you want your retirement income completely untouched by local taxes, Belize is one of the most straightforward places on earth to make that happen. Through the Qualified Retired Persons Program, or QRP, any foreign-sourced income you bring in, Social Security, pensions, annuities, even investment income, is completely exempt from Belizean income tax. On top of that, Belize doesn't charge capital gains tax or inheritance tax, and any interest or dividends you earn abroad stay untouched too. To qualify, you need to be at least 40 years old and show a verifiable foreign income of $2,000 a month, or $24,000 a year. That money needs to come from outside Belize, and you'll be asked to deposit it into a Belizean bank or financial institution. Once you're in the program, you also get to bring in your personal belongings and a vehicle without paying import duties, which isn't nothing when you're relocating an entire household. Now, here's the part people don't always plan for: Belize doesn't have a tax treaty with the US. That doesn't mean you're double taxed. The IRS still applies the foreign earned income exclusion and foreign tax credit rules the same way, but it does mean you're relying entirely on US tax law to protect you, since Belize isn't offering any treaty backup on its end. Cost of living runs noticeably below the US, roughly a third cheaper overall, and rent is where you'll feel it most. Some retirees settle into a comfortable one-bedroom for $700 to $1,400 a month depending on how close you are to the coast. A modest lifestyle inland can run as low as $1,200 to $1,500 a month for a single person. Getting the QRP visa itself is a fairly clean process: a police background check, a medical exam, proof of income, and you're renewing your resident card annually. You do need to spend at least 30 days a year physically in Belize to stay compliant. Healthcare is where you'll want to keep your expectations realistic. Basic care is affordable and doctor visits often run $30 to $75, but for anything specialized, major surgery, advanced diagnostics, most retirees end up flying to Mexico, Guatemala, or back to the US. International health insurance is worth budgeting for here. On safety, Belize is generally fine in the areas retirees actually settle: Ambergris Caye, Placencia, Corozal, Cayo, but it's not uniformly safe countrywide, and Belize City in particular carries a rougher reputation. Stick to the established expat communities and most people find it genuinely peaceful. 6. Georgia. Georgia runs on what's called a territorial tax system, and that one detail is why it's become such a magnet for American retirees. Under this system, only income earned inside Georgia gets taxed. Anything sourced from outside the country, your Social Security, your pension, your 401k withdrawals, is completely exempt, even if you become a full tax resident. Georgian tax code, specifically Article 82, spells this out directly: foreign pensions count as foreign source passive income, and that income simply isn't touched. It doesn't matter if you live there 30 days a year or 300. There's also no wealth tax, no inheritance tax, and no gift tax to worry about. Now for the part that makes Georgia almost too easy: most nationalities, including Americans, get a 365-day visa-free stay with no application, no minimum income requirement, and no paperwork. You just show up. Many retirees renew that clock year after year with a quick border run. One thing to know, though: since January 1, 2026, it has been required that every visitor needs health and accident insurance worth at least $11,000 to enter the country. It's a new requirement, so build it into your travel checklist. If you want more stability than a visa-free stamp gives you, a residence permit is available through property ownership, and as of March 2026, that requires a minimum investment of $150,000. Stick around for 6 continuous years and there's a path toward permanent residency. Day-to-day costs are where Georgia really shines. In Tbilisi, a single retiree can live comfortably on roughly $900 to $1,400 a month, and a couple typically runs $1,500 to $2,400. Head to smaller cities like Kutaisi and you're looking at $800 to $1,200 for a comfortable lifestyle. Batumi, on the Black Sea, sits somewhere in between and is especially appealing outside the summer tourist season when prices drop. Healthcare is genuinely impressive for the price. Private clinics in Tbilisi are modern, and a doctor's visit typically runs $18 to $37 out of pocket. Local health insurance is cheap too, often $10 to $50 a month. The catch is that a lot of local insurance plans stop covering you once you hit a certain age, sometimes as early as 65, so many retirees eventually shift to international coverage for peace of mind. Safety is one of Georgia's strongest selling points. Crime rates are low, and Tbilisi scores well on safety indexes compared to most European capitals. Standard precautions apply, especially at night, but this isn't a country retirees worry about walking around in. 5. Paraguay. Paraguay runs on a strict territorial tax system under Law 6380, and it might offer the cleanest zero tax setup on this entire list. Only income earned inside Paraguay's borders gets taxed. Your Social Security check, your private pension, your 401k or IRA withdrawals, none of it counts as Paraguayan source income, so none of it gets touched. What makes this stand out even more is that Paraguay doesn't use the typical 183-day residency test most countries rely on. Your tax status is tied to your legal residency and ID, not a day count calendar, so there's no clock to watch. A retiree pulling in $3,000 a month from Social Security and a private pension pays exactly zero Paraguayan income tax on it. There isn't a dedicated retirement visa here. Instead, retirees apply through Paraguay's standard temporary residency process, commonly called the pensionado or rentista route. You'll need a passport, an apostilled FBI background check, a birth certificate, and proof of stable foreign income. Practitioners generally cite around $1,300 to $1,500 a month. There's no age requirement and no formal minimum written into law, so this path is more flexible than most. Processing typically takes 3 to 6 months and runs $2,000 to $3,500 in fees. After 2 years of temporary residency, you can apply for permanent status, and citizenship becomes available after 3 years total. Permanent residents only need to visit the country once every 3 years to maintain status, which is about as light a presence requirement as you'll find anywhere. Cost of living is where Paraguay really separates itself. A comfortable life for a couple in Asunción typically runs $2,000 to $2,800 a month, and a one-bedroom apartment in a good neighborhood rents for $400 to $700. Smaller cities like Encarnación run about 25% cheaper still. Healthcare is private and genuinely affordable, think 50% to 70% cheaper than the United States. A GP visit runs $20 to $40, specialists $40 to $80, and full private insurance is typically $75 to $200 a month. Asunción has modern hospitals with internationally trained doctors, though for the most complex procedures, some retirees do travel to neighboring Argentina or Brazil. Safety is a genuine strength here. Paraguay holds the U.S. State Department's lowest risk Level 1 travel advisory, alongside Argentina, and its homicide rate sits well below neighbors like Brazil and Colombia. The main concerns are petty theft in crowded downtown areas, nothing more serious. One honest note, English is limited outside Asunción, so basic Spanish makes daily life, banking, and doctor visits considerably smoother. 4. Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic uses a special law, Law 17107, that specifically targets foreign retirees, and it's worth understanding because it works differently from the country's normal tax rules. Ordinarily, new residents get a temporary 3-year break on foreign income before the DR starts taxing worldwide earnings. But under Law 17107, if you qualify as a pensionado or rentista, that exemption on foreign source income becomes permanent. Your Social Security check, your pension, your foreign investment income, none of it gets taxed by the Dominican government, for as long as you hold that status. On top of that, the law throws in a 50% cut on annual property tax for your first home, a full exemption from the 3% property transfer tax on that first purchase, duty-free importation of your household goods, and no tax on dividends or interest, whether earned locally or abroad. To qualify for the pensionado visa, you need a lifetime pension of at least $1,500 a month, plus $250 for each dependent. If your income comes from investments rather than a pension, the rentista visa requires $2,000 a month in passive income. Processing typically takes 2 to 4 months, and one of the biggest draws here is speed to citizenship, just 2 years of residency, one of the fastest paths in the Americas. Cost of living runs roughly 30% to 45% below the US overall, with rent often 60% cheaper. A couple can live comfortably on $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and a one-bedroom apartment in a good area typically runs $400 to $800. Healthcare is genuinely strong for the price. Private doctor visits run $30 to $70, and an MRI that costs $1,000 to $3,000 in the US runs closer to $150 to $300 here. Private insurance typically costs $80 to $200 a month, though it climbs higher for retirees over 65. Santo Domingo's Sedimat Cardiac Center has a strong international reputation, and for anything beyond local capabilities, Miami is a short flight away. Safety is the one area to go in with clear eyes. The U.S. State Department currently rates the Dominican Republic at Level 2, exercise increased caution. It's not alarming, but it's not nothing either. Violent crime and petty theft do occur, particularly in urban centers like Santo Domingo and Santiago, while established expat and tourist areas like Punta Cana, Cabaret, and Las Terrenas benefit from a dedicated tourist police force and noticeably lower crime rates. 3. Costa Rica. Costa Rica runs on a territorial tax system, and it applies to everyone the same way, whether you're on a retirement visa or not. Only income earned inside Costa Rica gets taxed. Your Social Security, your pension, your IRA or 401k withdrawals, all of that is foreign source income, and it stays completely untouched by Costa Rican tax authorities, regardless of your residency status. The most popular path is the pensionado visa, and it has the lowest bar on this whole list, just $1,000 a month in lifetime pension income from a single source. One catch worth knowing, you can't combine two spouses' incomes to hit that number, so it has to come from one qualifying pension, usually Social Security. If your income comes from savings or investments instead, there's a rentista visa requiring $2,500 a month, verified over a 2-year period. Either way, you get some nice perks: duty-free import of your household goods, up to 2 vehicles brought in tax-free, and a 20% discount on real estate transfer tax if you buy property. There is a presence requirement to keep in mind. Temporary residents need to spend at least 4 months a year physically in the country, though that drops to almost nothing once you hit permanent residency after 3 years. Citizenship becomes available after 7 years, with a Spanish proficiency requirement attached. Cost of living really depends on where you land. A couple living modestly in a Central Valley town like Atenas or Grecia can get by on $2,000 to $2,500 a month. Push into a beach town or a more upscale area like Escazú, and that number climbs to $3,500 or more. Healthcare is one of Costa Rica's biggest strengths. Legal residents are required to enroll in CAJA, the national system, which runs 7% to 11% of your declared income, usually $70 to $220 a month, and covers hospitalizations, surgeries, specialists, and prescriptions with no copays. The trade-off is wait times, which is why a lot of retirees pair CAJA with private insurance, running $100 to $400 a month, for faster access to English-speaking doctors at hospitals like Shima or Clinica Biblica. Safety needs an honest note. The U.S. currently rates Costa Rica at Level 2, exercise increased caution. The vast majority of what affects expats and tourists is property crime, car break-ins, beach theft, home burglaries, rather than violent crime, and that risk is heavily concentrated in specific urban pockets most retirees never spend time in. Popular expat towns generally stay calm, low-key, and genuinely community-oriented. 2. Malaysia. Malaysia's tax setup takes a little more explaining than the others, but it works out well for American retirees. Malaysia moved away from a pure territorial system a few years back, meaning foreign income brought into the country can technically be taxed for residents. But there's a major carve-out: foreign income that's already been taxed in the country where it was earned stays exempt when it's brought into Malaysia, and that exemption has now been extended all the way through the end of 2036. Since the U.S. taxes its citizens on worldwide income no matter where they live, your Social Security or pension already falls under that already taxed category, which keeps it exempt on the Malaysian side. On top of that, the MM2H visa program itself carries its own specific exemption on foreign-sourced income and pension funds, so retirees get a second layer of protection built right into the visa conditions. Here's the trade-off, though: getting into Malaysia costs more upfront than most countries on this list. The MM2H, or Malaysia My Second Home program, runs on tiers. Silver requires a $150,000 fixed deposit in a Malaysian bank plus a property purchase of roughly $130,000. Gold jumps to a $500,000 deposit, and platinum requires a full $1 million. This isn't a modest monthly income visa like Costa Rica or Panama, it's a capital commitment. The upside is that applicants 50 and older face no minimum stay requirement at all, so you're free to come and go as you please. Cost of living, though, is genuinely excellent once you're settled. A couple can live comfortably in Penang or Kuala Lumpur on $1,500 to $2,200 a month, including rent. Penang tends to run noticeably cheaper than KL, and a one-bedroom apartment in either city center typically costs $350 to $580 a month. Healthcare is one of Malaysia's biggest selling points. Private hospitals are modern, and a large share of doctors trained in the UK, the US, or Australia. You don't even need a referral to see a specialist, you just book directly. Costs are low enough that a lot of expats skip insurance entirely and pay out of pocket. Safety is solid overall. Violent crime against foreigners is rare, though petty theft like bag snatching and phone theft does happen in busier city areas, so normal city awareness applies. Most expat retirees settle into gated condo communities with security, which keeps day-to-day life feeling relaxed and low stress. 1. Panama. Panama might have the cleanest, most generous tax setup on this entire list. It runs on a territorial system, and unlike some countries, that exemption applies even if you physically bring the money into Panama. Your U.S. Social Security, private pension, 401k or IRA withdrawals, and investment income are all completely exempt from Panamanian tax, regardless of how long you've lived there or your residency status. This has been Panama's policy for decades, and it isn't changing anytime soon. The Pensionado visa is what makes this so accessible. You only need a guaranteed lifetime pension of $1,000 a month, or just $750 a month if you own Panamanian real estate worth over $100,000. What sets Panama apart from most retirement visas is that Pensionado status grants immediate permanent residency, not a temporary permit you have to keep renewing. And the presence requirement is about as light as it gets. You only need to visit Panama once every 2 years to keep your residency active. Citizenship becomes an option after 5 years. On top of the tax break, Pensionado holders get real discounts baked into daily life, 25% to 50% off restaurants, hotels, healthcare, movies, and domestic flights, plus one-time duty-free import of household goods and a tax-free vehicle every 2 years. Cost of living varies quite a bit by location. A comfortable retirement in mountain towns like Boquete or beach towns like Coronado runs $1,400 to $2,500 a month for a couple. Panama City costs more, typically $2,000 to $3,500, but you get big city infrastructure and amenities in return. Since Panama uses the US dollar as its official currency, there's zero exchange rate risk to worry about. Healthcare is a genuine strength, especially in Panama City, where private hospitals, some Johns Hopkins affiliated, offer excellent care at a fraction of US prices, with doctor visits typically running $20 to $40. The trade-off is location dependent. Smaller towns like Boquete have limited local healthcare, so anything serious means a drive or short flight into the city. Safety-wise, Panama holds a Level 2, exercise increased caution, rating from the U.S. State Department, but it's statistically one of the safest countries in Latin America, with violent crime rates well below the regional average. The realistic concern is petty theft, pickpocketing, purse snatching, rather than anything more serious, and a handful of specific areas, like the Darien region and certain Panama City neighborhoods, are best avoided while the established expat areas stay calm and low-key. These are the 7 countries where you can legally pay no local tax on your retirement income. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss future videos on the best retirement destinations, and everything you need to know before retiring abroad. Your support also helps us reach more people and motivates us to keep creating valuable content like this for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.